The massive lion collapsed at the entrance of Wild Refuge Center, its golden mane matted with blood and dirt. Mark Thompson, former Navy SEAL with 12 years of combat experience, instantly recognized the gravity of the situation. While others backed away in terror, Mark's training kicked in, assessing the threat level, checking for immediate dangers, and calculating survival odds. "That's not just any lion," he muttered, noticing the distinctive scar across its face. "That's Rex, the one that escaped from Blackwater Private Safari 3 weeks ago." The predator's labored breathing and tucked paw signaled severe injury. Its eyes, unusually intelligent and desperate, locked onto Mark's. In that moment, the hardened veteran knew this wasn't a threat. It was a plea for help. Rex had escaped during a transport operation when handlers at Blackwater Safari underestimated his intelligence. The 4-year-old male lion had traveled an astonishing 200 miles across the Nevada desert, navigating terrain completely foreign to an African predator. Wildlife officials have been tracking him for weeks, most advocating for immediate termination due to public safety concerns. "A lion can't survive in this ecosystem," explained local ranger David Peterson. "No natural prey, extreme temperature fluctuations, and dangerous terrain. It's a death sentence." Indeed, Rex's condition confirmed the predictions. His front right paw was severely infected from what appeared to be a puncture wound, likely from a cactus or sharp rock. Dehydration had sunken his once powerful frame, and his ribs protruded sharply beneath his dull coat. Blood tests would later reveal he hadn't eaten in at least 5 days. The lion had somehow found his way to the Wild Refuge Center, an animal rehabilitation facility Mark had established after leaving the military. Unlike conventional wildlife centers, this operation was staffed primarily by veterans trained to handle dangerous situations. "We got a code red situation," Mark announced over the facility's communication system. "Adult male lion, severely injured at main entrance. Implement protocol Sierra immediately." Standard wildlife rescue protocols were useless here. Local veterinarians refused to approach, citing inadequate equipment and training for such a dangerous predator. Animal control suggested euthanasia as the only viable option. The nearest qualified big cat specialist was 8 hours away in San Diego. "He'll be dead in 2 hours without intervention," assessed Dr. Ramirez, the center's veterinarian and former Army medic. "Severe infection, critical dehydration, and probable organ failure beginning." The situation drew immediate media attention. Local news vans arrived within the hour, and residents from nearby Henderson gathered at the perimeter, their opinions divided. "That thing could kill someone's child," shouted one concerned parent. "It's just an animal looking for help," argued another resident. As tensions escalated outside, Mark knew time was running out. Rex needed immediate medical intervention, but treating a 400-pound apex predator wasn't like handling a domestic cat. One wrong move could be fatal for both the lion and his rescuers. Mark retreated to his office, spreading satellite maps across his desk, a habit from his SEAL days. His mind flashed back to his specialized training at Camp Pendleton, where he'd learned to handle military working dogs and assess animal threats in combat zones. Though lions weren't part of that curriculum, the principles remained applicable. "Salute report," he muttered to himself, using the military acronym for size, activity, location, unit, time, and equipment. Subject is adult male African lion, approximately 400 pounds, severely injured but mobile, currently contained in entrance courtyard. Alone, no pride. Present for approximately 15 minutes. No equipment or weapons, but natural armaments include teeth and claws. Dr. Ramirez entered with preliminary blood work. "It's worse than we thought. Severe infection, dehydration at critical levels, and his electrolytes are dangerously imbalanced." Mark nodded, his mind already formulating a tactical approach. During his 3rd deployment to Africa, he'd observed wildlife veterinarians dart and treat lions. It was risky but possible with the right team and equipment. "We need to create a 3-phase operation," Mark explained, switching to the commanding tone that had guided his SEAL team through dozens of high-risk missions. "Phase 1, containment and preparation. Phase 2, medical intervention. Phase 3, rehabilitation and release decision." He pulled out his phone and called James Wilson, his former team medic who treated wounded soldiers under heavy fire in Afghanistan. James, remember that time we had to perform field surgery during the sandstorm in Kandahar? I need that same steady hand today, but the patient is significantly furrier. Next, he contacted Sarah Chun, a wildlife biologist who'd worked with his team on counter-poaching operations. I need your expertise on big cat behavior and dosing for sedatives, he explained. We've got a situation that can't wait for conventional channels. While his team assembled, Mark weighed the risks against his military ethos. Leave no one behind, even if that one had 4 paws and a mane. Why risk your life for a wild animal? Asked one of the newer staff members, a question that hung heavy in the room. Mark's response was immediate. In the SEALs, we had a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. This lion found us for a reason. He's fighting to survive, and that deserves respect. In combat, I've seen that what'll live make the difference between those who make it and those who don't. The Nevada Department of Wildlife called, demanding they stand down and wait for their officials to arrive, with orders to euthanize the lion. With all due respect, Mark replied firmly, by the time your team arrives, this animal will be dead. We have the training and equipment to attempt treatment. Request permission to proceed with rescue operation. After tense negotiations, they received conditional approval, but with a strict warning. Any sign of public danger and sharpshooters would be authorized to terminate the lion immediately. Understood, Mark acknowledged, knowing the clock was ticking. Team, gear up. We move in 5. The rescue team assembled in the preparation area, donning protective gear that resembled their former military equipment. Mark conducted a final briefing, his voice calm but authoritative. Remember your training. This is a combat casualty situation with an unconventional patient. James will lead the medical team. Sarah will monitor vital signs and advise on sedation. I'll manage overall security and approach. Questions. The courtyard had been secured with reinforced barriers, creating a controlled environment for the operation. Mark approached the lion first, maintaining eye contact while moving with deliberate slowness. Rex watched him, pain evident in his amber eyes, but showing no aggression. He's conserving energy, Sarah noted through the communication system. Classic behavior for an injured predator. He knows he can't fight or flee effectively. Mark positioned himself at the optimal angle for James to deliver the tranquilizer dart. The first challenge emerged immediately. Rex's severely weakened condition meant standard sedation protocols could prove fatal. We need to reduce the dose by 30%, Sarah advised. His system can't handle the standard amount in this condition. James adjusted the medication and took aim. The dart found its mark on the lion's shoulder, causing him to flinch but not charge. 10 minutes later, Rex's massive head lowered to the ground as the sedative took effect. The team moved in quickly, transferring the unconscious lion to the medical facility on a reinforced stretcher. What they discovered under proper lighting shocked even the experienced team. The paw injury was far worse than initially assessed. A deep puncture wound had become severely infected, with necrotic tissue spreading up the leg. We need to debride this immediately, James declared, or we'll lose a leg, maybe the animal. As they prepared for emergency surgery, the second major challenge arose. An angry crowd had gathered outside the facility, their numbers growing as local news broadcast live updates. They're calling for the lion to be put down, reported Kyle, the security lead. County sheriff says they're getting concerned about potential public disorder. Mark delegated crowd management to his security team and focused on the operation. We proceed as planned. This animal deserves a fighting chance. The surgical team worked methodically, removing infected tissue and flushing the wound with antibiotics. Halfway through procedure, the third critical challenge emerged. Their supply of specialized wildlife antibiotics was insufficient for an animal of Rex's size. We need an alternative, James stated, monitoring the lion's declining vitals. Mark thought quickly, recalling battlefield medicine principles. What about the combat trauma antibiotics? The broad-spectrum ones we use in the field? Dr. Ramirez nodded. The pharmacology is compatible. It's unorthodox, but it might work. They adapted the military-grade medications for veterinary use. calculating dosages based on body weight and condition. As they administered the new treatment, Rex's vitals began to stabilize. 4 hours into the operation, they'd successfully cleaned and treated the wound, administered fluids, and stabilized the lion's condition. The team was preparing to move Rex to the recovery enclosure when his sedation began wearing off prematurely, a dangerous development no one had anticipated. "He's coming around too soon," Sarah warned, noticing the lion's increasing respiratory rate and twitching muscles. The team froze as Rex's massive paw moved slightly. In the field, this would be the moment to retreat to safe positions, but moving the half-sedated predator now was impossible. "Everyone stay calm," Mark ordered, positioning himself between the lion and his team. Slow, deliberate movements. "James, prepare another half-dose." Drawing on his experience in high-stress combat situations, Mark maintained steady eye contact with a partially conscious lion, speaking in a low, even tone. The room held its collective breath as James carefully administered the additional sedation. "That was too close," Sarah whispered as Rex's body relaxed again. "In the teams, we call those moments pucker factors," Mark replied with the dark humor characteristic of Special Forces operators. "Let's get him secure before we have another one." They successfully transferred Rex to the reinforced recovery enclosure, equipped with remote monitoring systems and climate control. As the team finally stepped back to assess their work, exhaustion evident on their faces, Mark nodded with cautious satisfaction. "Phase 1 and 2 complete," he announced. "Now we see if he's a fighter." Outside, the crowd had grown more sympathetic after witnessing the team's dedication to the facility's windows. The narrative was shifting from fear to fascination, from call for destruction to hopes for recovery. For 3 days, Rex's condition remained critical. The team worked in shifts, monitoring vital signs and administering treatments. Mark rarely left the facility, catching brief moments of sleep on a cot beside a recovery enclosure. On the 4th morning, they faced the most dangerous phase of the rescue, removing the surgical drain and changing the dressings on Rex's wound. This procedure required direct contact with the conscious lion. "We can't fully sedate him again so soon," Dr. Ramirez explained. "His liver and kidneys are still compromised. We need to use minimal sedation and restraints." Mark volunteered to be the primary handler. "I'll go in. My combat experience makes me best suited for close quarters management if something goes wrong." The team prepared the specialized restraint system, a modified version of equipment used for military working dogs. Scaled up for a lion, Rex would be partially sedated and secured with reinforced straps, allowing access to his injured paw while minimizing risk to the medical team. As Mark entered the enclosure with the partial sedative, Rex watched him intently. The lion had been accepting food and water from Mark's hand, establishing a tentative trust. "Easy, big guy," Mark murmured, approaching with measured steps. "We're trying to help you." Rex accepted the medicated meat, and within 20 minutes showed signs of mild sedation. The team proceeded with the restraint protocol, securing the lion's body and limbs while leaving the injured paw accessible. Dr. Ramirez and James entered to perform the procedure, working efficiently to remove the drain and assess healing. The wound showed promising signs of improvement, with healthy granulation tissue forming. Suddenly, Rex jerked awake, the sedation proving insufficient. His powerful body tensed against the restraints, one of which began to give way. The medical team backed toward the exit, but Mark held his position. Drawing on his battlefield experience, Mark knew that retreating could trigger the lion's predatory instinct. Instead, he maintained his ground, locking eyes with Rex and speaking in a firm, calm voice, the same tone he'd used to control attack dogs in military operations. "Stand down, soldier," he commanded, a phrase that had no meaning to the lion but carried the unmistakable authority Mark had developed through years of combat leadership. Remarkably, Rex settled, his eyes still fixed on Mark, but his body relaxing. The team watched in astonishment as Mark slowly reached out, placing his hand near, but not touching, the lion's mane in a gesture of reassurance. "Finish the procedure," Mark directed without breaking eye contact with Rex. "Move deliberately, no sudden actions." Dr. Ramirez completed the dressing change while James readied an emergency sedative they thankfully didn't need. When they finished, the team carefully removed the restraints and exited the enclosure. Outside, they released the collective breath they'd been holding. In 15 years of veterinary medicine, I've never seen anything like that, Dr. Ramirez admitted. How did you know he wouldn't attack? Mark shrugged. I didn't, but in special operations, we learned to read body language as a survival skill. Rex wasn't showing pre-attack indicators. He was showing fear, not aggression. Sometimes the most dangerous move is backing down. The incident, captured on the facility security cameras, would later become a powerful teaching tool for wildlife management professionals, and evidence of the unique skills veterans bring to conservation work. Within 3 weeks, Rex's transformation was remarkable. His wound had healed cleanly, his weight returned to healthy levels, and his coat regained its golden luster. The story captured national attention, with major networks covering the seal who saved a lion. Wildlife authorities, initially skeptical, now praise the rescue as innovative and professionally executed. The center received donations and support from across the country. What happens to him now? Reporters asked during a press conference. Rex can't return to wild, Mark explained. But we've secured him a permanent home at a reputable sanctuary in Colorado. He'll have 5 acres to roam and professional care for life. Mark deflected personal praise. This wasn't heroism. It was applying the right training to the situation. Any of my teammates would have done the same. 6 months later, wildfire threatened the Colorado sanctuary, housing Rex and dozens of other rescued animals. As flames approached, evacuation became critical. When sanctuary staff struggled to load frightened animals, Rex's behavior astonished everyone. The lion remained unusually calm during the chaos, following handlers' directions without resistance. More remarkably, other big cats seemed to follow his lead, making the evacuation possible when minutes counted. It's like he knew we were helping, the sanctuary director told reporters. The same instinct that brought him to Mark's facility guided him through this crisis. Mark, visiting to assist with the evacuation, smiled at the news. In the teams, we say character reveals itself under pressure. Seems that's true across species. What unlikely bonds have you witnessed between humans and animals? Share your stories below.